Who killed Karen Diamond? Was it an Islamist? Was it an illegal immigrant? Was it the mainstream media? Or was it anti-Semitism?
The FBI is calling the incident a targeted terror attack.
Karen Diamond was
an 82-year-old Jewish American who was a Holocaust survivor who was one of the victims of the horrific petrol bombing attack in Boulder, Colorado. Karen was peacefully marching with a group of Jewish Americans to raise awareness about the Israelis being held hostage since October 7th, 2023, when her and her group were targeted by a terrorist with a petrol bomb.
Went through Molotov cocktails during a walk to remember Israeli hostages.
Her death is not just a reminder, it is the literal evidence of the rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic attacks in the United States of America. Let's break down what happened and who is responsible for Karen Diamond's death. Since October 7th, 2023, anti-Semitic attacks in the United States of America have completely and utterly skyrocketed. According to the ADL, one of the main organizations countering anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic incidents have risen by 344% over the last 5 years, and there have been over 10,000 reported incidents since October 7th alone in the United States of America. Many of these incidents are linked to anti-Israel sentiment, using anti-Zionism and the veil of anti-Zionism to essentially commit anti-Semitic attacks. The man who killed Karen Diamond after he committed his horrific petrol attack bombing was actually shouting about Israel once the attack was complete. Let's take a look at just a few of these anti-Semitic events that have taken place over the last few months. Perhaps the most horrific one is the killing of Paul Kessler, a story that Visegrad24 actually broke. 69-year-old Paul Kessler was a Jewish American who was attending a counter-protest in support of the Israeli hostages being held by Hamas. One of the pro-Palestinian protesters struck him in the head, Paul Kessler fell and later died. All of this happened with the complete and utter silence of mainstream media who completely ignored the story. It was alternative media outlets like Visegrad24 that were pushing the story and keeping the memory of Paul Kessler alive.
Hitler should have smashed you!
Another important aspect of the rising anti-Semitism are the events happening around American campuses, especially places like Columbia University. Many of the students were very involved in pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas activism, and they have made life unbearable for Jewish students on campuses such as the campus at Columbia University. Another element of rising anti-Semitism is vandalism of Jewish-owned businesses. Businesses all over the US that have been branded as Jewish-owned have been vandalized.
Free Palestine. Look, what you looking at? You know damn well there's a genocide. You know there's a genocide. But this is not okay.
This is Bricky.
Who's this?
This is Bricky.
What?
The killing of two Israeli embassy staffers, Yaron Leschensky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. They were killed as they were leaving an event in Washington, D.C. by a radical communist, Elias Rodriguez, who shouted "Free, free Palestine" once he had killed them and he was being arrested by the American police. This rise of anti-Semitic attacks is not happening in a void. It is being fueled, and it is being fueled by very specific actors in the mainstream media. The BBC, CNN, the New York Times, many of them have run stories vilifying Israel, equating it to evil, downplaying Hamas's terrorism, and equating Israel's defensive actions against Hamas as aggression. This has led to a climate of hatred for Israel. There have been, of course, many fake stories, like the story that was run about Israel striking a Palestinian hospital in Gaza that turned out to have been a misfired rocket by Palestinian Islamic Jihad. But it was too late. The wave of hate had already been spilled. Celebrities such as Bella Hadid, Roger Waters, or Bob Vylan are at the forefront of vilifying Israel and, by extension, vilifying Jews.
Death to the IDF! Death to the IDF!
They use their massive platforms to spread anti-Israel sentiment, with Roger Waters famously comparing Israel to Nazi Germany. This has been deeply radicalizing people, with many considering themselves anti-Zionists and considering that to be something good and noble. This has vilified Jews and turned them into a fair target in the eyes of many Americans who are now self-described anti-Zionists, fighting for the cause of the liberation of the Palestinians Palestinian people when they have no real understanding of the Israel-Hamas war or of the geopolitical realities of the Middle East.
I forgot the river's name, but the sea is the Red Sea.
I think it's the Black Sea.
Mountains to the sea. From the mountains to the sea. Which mountains?
Who was the man who killed Karen Diamond and committed the horrific petrol bombing in Boulder, Colorado? It was a 45-year-old Egyptian national called Mohammed Sabri Soliman, who entered the US in August 2022 on a B2 tourist visa. That visa terminated in 2023, but he stayed, applied for asylum, and remained in the US unlawfully. On June 1st, Mohammed Sabri Soliman decided to disguise himself as a gardener, and he targeted a group called Run for Their Lives, a global group that meets and walks to raise awareness for the hostages being held in Hamas's terror tunnels. They carry flags, they sing songs, and read names of hostages. Hardly a particularly provocative act. Soliman, radicalized by anti-Israel content online, shouted "Free Palestine" as he threw a Molotov cocktail at the group and later sprayed them with a makeshift flamethrower consisting of a weed sprayer filled with gasoline. Mohammed confessed to spending a year planning the attack, and his aim was to kill all Zionist people. Authorities found 16 Molotov cocktails at the scene, which showed the scale of Mohammed Sabri Soliman's intent. He really wanted, as he himself said, to kill all Zionist people. He injured Karen Diamond and 12 other people. After 4 weeks of fighting for her life, Karen unfortunately succumbed to her wounds and died. The Boulder, Colorado attack did not happen in a vacuum. The mainstream media radicalized people like Mohammed Sabri Soliman and created the conditions for this attack. A constant vilification of Israel leads to very real consequences, like the death of Karen Diamond in Boulder, Colorado. Equally troubling as the mainstream media's approach to the Israel-Hamas war is the approach to illegal migration. Had Mohammed Sabri Soliman been deported, as he should have been, this attack would not have happened. Karen Diamond is a victim of the lax enforcement of migration laws. People like Mohammed Sabri Soliman should not be in the United States of America, nor should they be in any Western nation. Radicals like Mohammed belong in their homelands, not in Western countries, where they will commit terror attacks like the one that Mohammed Sabri Soliman committed. Muslim mass migration to the West and the lax enforcement of migration laws has unsurprisingly led to a rise of Islamist terror attacks on Western soil. Jews are often the first to bear the brunt of those attacks. Let's look at 3 such cases. The first one, the Bulgaria bus attack in 2012. A young French-Lebanese migrant hired by Iran blew up a bus with Israeli tourists in the city of Burgas, killing 5 Jews and the Bulgarian bus driver. The 2015 Paris kosher supermarket attack. 4 French hostages were killed by a French-Malian ISIS-linked gunman at Hypercacher in Paris. And we have the 2016 Brussels Jewish Museum shooting, where 4 people, including 2 Israeli tourists, were killed by young French-Algerian Islamist. So who killed Karen Diamond? As you can see, it's a combination of factors. On one hand, the mainstream media and its normalization of anti-Zionist and by extension anti-Semitic attitudes in the United States that are radicalizing people into committing active crimes against Jews. And on the other hand, its lax migration policy, it's a lax attitude to asylum seekers. Had border policies been enforced, Mohammed Sabri Soliman would not have been in the United States in the first place and would not have murdered Karen Diamond and injured another 12 people in Boulder, Colorado. This is an event that we must learn from. Karen Diamond's death must not be in vain.